Well, tonight, the NBC 10 investigators are confronting a Worcester County couple who have been scamming people for 20 years. They are known as professional tenants. They live in properties without paying rent as long as possible before they're ultimately evicted. Then they find a new victim and do it all over again. NBC 10 investigator Ryan Kath spent weeks trying to track them down. He has details on how it all unfolded.
Ryan Kath with NBC Boston. We've been looking for you. Why haven't you paid rent for the last 20 years?
It's pretty clear Russ Callahan was surprised to see somebody show up to expose the scheme he and his wife Linda have been pulling off for the past 2 decades.
Russ, come out and answer some questions.
As we told you earlier this month, the Callahans have a habit of showing up at homes for rent with a positive first impression and a stack of paperwork.
What were the documents that he gave you?
Credit report, background check, pay stubs.
But after signing a lease and handing over the keys, the rent checks always bounce.
Bank sent me this back. It says the account has been closed.
The Callahans string property owners along with excuses until they finally come to a painful realization.
I started panicking.
I had been scammed at that moment.
I realized that this is not some isolated thing, that they are people who actually live like this.
Our investigation found over the past 2 decades in Massachusetts and a short stint in Florida, the Callahans have been evicted more than 20 times, with judgments for unpaid rent surpassing well over $100,000. Victims include a single mom.
They never paid the penny. They need to pay for what they did.
A couple saving to have their first child.
We're growing our family, and that's a tough pill to swallow after not getting paid for the last 8 months.
And a veteran who was overseas on his first deployment with the Navy.
I'm thinking, I have this house, I'm in a whole nother country. What am I going to even do?
Around Worcester Housing Court, it seems like everyone knows the Callahans.
You're not going to get her out this year.
Attorney Henry Rafelson has been involved in at least 6 eviction cases.
Callahans certainly owe the most money of anybody I've seen in Worcester County.
Why do you think they decide to keep doing this?
Because they're living in very, very nice places.
But when we first aired our investigation, it remained unclear where the Callahans were currently living. So we decided to send a letter to the last home where they were evicted from at the end of 2023 with forwarding service and signed delivery confirmation. That led us to this UPS location in Shrewsbury, where we spotted Linda retrieving mail from a P.O. box and loading up packages in a new Mazda SUV. And then our journey took us to this extended stay in Westboro, where we found Russell on a smoke break.
Why haven't you paid rent for the last 20 years? Russell, stop and answer a couple questions. You have been ripping off landlords for the last 20 years. What do you have to say to them for all the money you owe them? Russ, come out and answer some questions.
But just like the monthly rent, the answers never arrived.
Why are you doing this, Russ?
The big question now is if the Callahans will face any consequences.
Hopefully they'll end up in some nice jail. Free housing. That is what they're looking, yes, free housing.
Both the Worcester County DA and the Massachusetts Attorney General told us they're aware of our coverage but are not confirming or denying if they're investigating. We did reach out to property management at that extended stay and are waiting to hear back on how long the Callahans have been living there and whether they paid for their stay. Ryan Kath, NBC 10 Investigators.